Welcome to Encounter Wargaming. Today we begin our look at Psykers, what they are, why they exist. As usual, I'm Jay, and this is 40K Metaphysics 101. Back to another episode of 40K Metaphysics 101. Today I want to get into the concept of Psykers. We're going to discuss what they are and try and get to the bottom of how and why they exist. I'll be following this video with more descriptive videos on the types of Psykers that exist in 40K, but for now, we're going to form a foundation for that subject by discussing the nature of Psykers and how they get their powers. Last time, we discussed the Immaterium and the Tides of the Warp. Now, without the Warp, it would not be possible for there to be Psykers in the first place. They're a strange phenomenon that connects the Immaterium to the physical universe. This makes them the perfect gateway for demons to influence or even enter the material plane. For this reason, many societies in the 41st millennium consider Psykers abominable heretics that should not be allowed to live. In fact, there's an entire arm of the Inquisition, known as the Ordo Hereticus, that is dedicated to purging the galaxy of Psykers, or witches, as they prefer to refer to them. What makes Psykers possible in the 40K universe is the fact that every sentient being has a connection to the warp. In fact, every sentient being has a presence as such within the warp. This has been referred to by many names, but most refer to this warp body of sorts as a soul. Those sentient beings that have a very powerful presence in the warp are able to not only bring the energy of the warp into real space, but can most often control and direct those warp energies they harness in order to give themselves, or others, superhuman abilities such as divination, telepathy, telekinesis, and many, many more. We will dive deeper into the concept of the soul in 40K in later content, but what you should know for now is that it appears that the older a race is, the stronger their soul or warp presence will be. Therefore, races that date back to prehistory are usually much stronger Psykers than younger races. This explains why the Eldari are not only more powerful Psykers than humans, but are also much more in control of their powers than most human Psykers. It also explains why Tau appear to not have much of a psychic potential at all, since they are, in fact, the youngest sentient race, at least out of the tabletop armies that we have a selection to. It could be argued that the Ethereal's power over their race, or over the Tau race, could be psychic in nature, but there's no real proof of that, at least not to my knowledge. It would be logical to assume, however. So, possibly a few thousand years after the 41st millennium, the Tau may begin to develop a stronger psychic presence. But at this point, this is only a theory, however logical it may be. The reason why sentient races can harness psychic energies is a tough thing to explain. Some speculate that it is a natural occurring phenomenon that comes with the natural evolution of a race, as we sort of just touched on. It is obvious that a race's psychic potential increases as they evolve, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the ability to use psychic abilities was originally gifted to them by nature. Long ago, in the galaxy's distant past, existed a race of star-faring beings that possessed not only great psychic abilities, but were also extremely advanced technologically, and had an aptitude for genetic manipulation. These beings were known as the Old Ones. The Old Ones were responsible for creating the Eldari, the ancestors to the Orcs, better known as the Krork, as well as possibly humanity. They gifted both the Krork and the Eldari with instinctual psychic abilities. Every Eldari is a Psyker, and every modern-day Orc generates a psychic field that powers their Psykers, sort of like a rechargeable battery. It could be possible that they had a hand in human development, since humans clearly also have psychic abilities, not to mention their anatomical similarity to the Eldari. There was another race that existed at the same time as the Old Ones, known as the Necron-Tyr. The Old Ones did not create the Necron-Tyr. Like they did other races, they developed naturally. This is the race that would later become known as the Necrons. The Necron-Tyr possessed absolutely no psychic abilities. In fact, they were quite jealous of the Old Ones for their psychic power and technology. Even now, as the Necrons, they possess no Psykers, and in fact have devices known as Necron pylons that separate the warp from real space and successfully seal tears in the warp. They use these devices as a way to rid the universe of warp powers, since they themselves cannot utilize those powers. As we discussed earlier, the Tau seem to not have any Psykers. Again, the ethereals are iffy as to whether or not their power is psychic in nature or not. If not, then this could be because the Tau have evolved on their own over the recent 6,000 years of the 40K timeline, without interference from other races. In the Tau, we can clearly see another example of a race that developed naturally rather than being created, like the Eldari orcs and humans that have, that possesses no psychic abilities, at least not that are apparent. By this logic, it could be theorized that the reason sentient beings have access to psychic powers could be the result of the Old Ones meddling in the genetic development of these races, in order to create a powerful psychic weapon to use against the Necron-Tyr. We know that both the Eldari and the Orcs were created for that purpose. There is evidence to suggest that the Old Ones had a hand in human development as well, but we obviously weren't around during the time that the Old Ones had war with the Necron-Tyr. The reality is that the Old Ones had a hand in the development of many worlds across the galaxy. The races we experience on the tabletop are only a drop in a large bucket of races that exist across the 40K galaxy that have felt the touch of the Old Ones. Therefore, there are other Xenos species that clearly have access to psychic abilities, that are only in the fluff and not in the miniatures at present time. The Hrud are a perfect example of this. These jellyfish-like aliens have a bubble of warp energy that surrounds them at all times. This allows them to conceal themselves in a cloud of darkness to avoid being detected. They also seem to cause things around them to decay at an accelerated rate. Now, they do exude clouds of poisonous gas, but that seems more of a biological thing than a warp-based power. The ability to cause organic matter to decay and metals to corrode at incredible speeds is more likely a warp-based ability, much like the followers of Nurgle, who can cause flesh to age and metals to rust just by being near them. It's very possible the Hrud were a creation of the Old Ones as well. We know they were around during the War in Heaven, and they appear to worship the same gods as the Eldari, just under different names. In fact, their mythology describes the destruction of their gods in the very same manner as the Eldari described the destruction of theirs. In closing, it would appear that the most potent psychic races are either a direct result of genetic tampering on the part of the Old Ones, or simply become more psychically potent as they evolve and develop. I understand none of this is very empirical, but the truth is there's no proper explanation why Psykers exist. All we can really do is speculate and theorize. So I hope you like these videos. If you do, please hit the like button below. Also, make sure to hit subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to help us make more videos, make sure to head to the description below and check out our Patreon. It'll get you a lot of perks for only a few dollars a month. And if you just want to help us out with a one-time sort of donation, check out our Spreadshirt page and get yourself some cool Encounter Wargaming merch, and it helps us keep things going around here. I'd love to hear your theories on Psykers. How and why do you think they have their powers? Make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to get a conversation going about this stuff, hence why I'm doing this playlist in the first place. So that's it for today, and I'll see you at our next encounter.
Like a monkey in a rocket on his way back home. Okay.